Okay, good afternoon. As all of you are aware, I have made my decision regarding Michael Vick, and I'd be happy to take your questions. But before we do, I'd just like to make a couple of points, which I hope will be helpful in putting it in the context. First and most importantly, I think we all want to recognize that the conduct that Michael engaged in was not only horrific, but it was cruel. And we all certainly recognize that, and I believe after meeting with Michael that he recognizes that also. We engaged in a very thorough process. It was very carefully done and very thoroughly done. Multiple members of our staff were engaged, as well as myself. We went through his records, his court records. We went through evaluations. We went through decisions. We know all the terms of his parole. We went through every detail, and including about a 4.5-hour meeting with Michael last Wednesday here in the New York area. So we take this as a very serious matter. We're dealing with a young man's life, and our process was similarly reflective of the seriousness of that. As you know, he can sign now with an NFL team. He can practice without delay with an NFL team. He may play in the final 2 preseason games of this preseason. And once the regular season starts, he can practice if the team so chooses. And I will decide within those 6 weeks, within the first 6 weeks of the regular season, when and whether he will be reinstated to play from there. He has been very open and fully cooperative, as well as his advisors and his counselors. I will say that one of the most important things that we talked about is that nobody gets through life alone. That you always have to have a mentor. You always have somebody who's going to give you guidance, support at critical moments. Michael needs that right now. And I've asked Tony Dungy to play a more formal role on my behalf, but also on Michael's behalf, to serve as a mentor to Michael and help him and guide him through some very difficult decisions he's going to have to make going forward. I do not expect he'll be his only mentor, but Tony will be a big part of determining who else will serve as advisors to him. But I know Tony and Michael, who I spoke with earlier today in our conference call, both take it very seriously and are committed to making sure that they work closely together to make better decisions going forward. I do believe that this transitional approach that we've outlined for Michael is the best thing for him, that it will have the best opportunity to lead to a success for a young man who has his life ahead of him. Whether he makes it on the field for the NFL is something that will be determined on the field, but he has some big decisions off the field to make in the way he conducts himself. I think he is at a point right now where he is prepared to make those decisions and hopefully conduct himself in a more positive way. I have said repeatedly and many times before that playing in the NFL is a privilege. We are held to a higher standard, and it is not a right to be an NFL player. I think Michael clearly understands that and his responsibility, and I think it's his opportunity now to earn the opportunity to get that privilege back again, and that's up to Michael. One final point before I take your questions is I've said many times before, I'm very proud of NFL players. They do incredible things and exceed the standards that we set for them. And they do that both on and off the field, and I'm proud of the things that they do off the field. Obviously, when you're dealing with 2,000 young men, you're going to have mistakes, bad judgments, and people are going to do things that you're not proud of. Obviously, this is one case, but I hope something positive can come out of something that's been a very tragic circumstance, and hopefully people will understand that an individual here has the right to earn that opportunity back again. He will be held accountable for that. He will be held accountable for his life management that he's submitted to me, the things that he says he's going to do, and I will make sure that he does that in a responsible fashion, as well as Tony. So I'll be happy to take your questions.
Have any teams expressed interest in signing him yet?
That's not something that I would get involved with. I work for all 32 teams. As far as what team signs him, that's an individual club decision, and they'll have to make that individually with him and negotiate.
Commissioner, a lot of people have kind of brought up the fact that Michael misled you initially when you first broached this topic with him many years ago. Was that something, I guess, he had to sort of get over or make better, make right with you, just in terms of knowing that there has to be candor and honesty from here on out?
Yes, he was not candid with me. In fact, prior to starting here, we spent a few minutes together, and it was the first thing that he raised with me, that he was disappointed in himself. He was direct about the fact that he lied to me about his involvement in dogfighting, and I accept his apology. I understand. I don't like being lied to like anybody else, but this is something that we have to go forward. We have to move forward, and Michael understands that I am judging him on his activities going forward, and the words that he said to me, and the conduct that hopefully will support the words that he's expressed to me personally. Yes.
What needs to happen in the next 12 weeks that hasn't already happened that would allow for his full reinstatement?
Well, a number of things. First, he'd have to sign a contract with the team. He'll have to begin the process of getting reacclimated into that community and that team. He'll obviously want to relocate his family. He's been very clear about that. He will have to get a support system around him. He will continue to go through the programs of his parole, but also the programs that the NFL has designed for him. He will work very closely with Tony and myself, if necessary, to make sure that we are providing the support necessary and the guidance. But he has a very difficult transition coming forward, and we want to support him in that and give him that opportunity, but he recognizes he has to earn that, and his actions will have to support that.
Roger,
Yes.
should Vic not sign with any teams during the preseason, will the parameters of this reinstatement change? Have you even looked into that or discussed that, if he doesn't even have the opportunity with a team during preseason?
Well, that's not something I can control. Of course, individual club and Michael and his team are going to have to make that decision about who he signs with. Ultimately, I don't expect that I would modify the terms of what I call the transition plan in any marginal way, but I'll leave that option open if necessary, but I don't see that as being something that I would engage in.
Roger,
Yes.
PETA has said that they wanted you to have him undergo a psychiatric evaluation to show that he's truly remorseful, and if not, they would consider, protesting any team that would sign him. Did you have him undergo any evaluation, and how do you feel about that?
Yes. In fact, we worked with animal rights activist groups, and we are clear. We worked with their medical professionals about the aspects of our evaluations. Michael fully cooperated with all of those tests. Those tests did not indicate that there was any reason he couldn't make a transition forward, but they also recognize that counseling and other aspects of support will be important for him going forward. Yes.
Commissioner, you mentioned that there'd be an NFL component to his program moving forward as well, things he'd have to adhere to. Can you elaborate, I guess, on what that means beyond, obviously, the probationary things he has to do legally?
Well, the primary one is the role of Tony Dungy. That I believe that Tony is a very successful individual. He's somebody that I respect his judgment. He, I think, is wise and will give good counsel. And I think he's committed to helping Michael as a young man, not as a football player, to try to do what's right for him to help reestablish his life and help him move forward. That's the first thing that has to happen here. And all of the conditions that we've outlined in the letter, which we'll be happy to give you or provide you the conditions, we will hold Michael accountable. He will be responsible for fulfilling those, and that will be part of my judgment about how long the period of time is for I'll allow him to play in regular season games.
Roger, did
Yes.
you feel a sense of urgency to make this decision quickly? Obviously, it's only a week since he completed his federal term, and how much of, I don't know if relief is the right word, but how much of maybe a relief it would be for you that you were able to make this decision so quickly?
Relief is not a word I'd use here. I believe that it was my responsibility to make a thoughtful, a very clear decision and do it on a very timely basis. I am not here to punish anybody. We're here to extend players' careers rather than limit players' careers. And that's important for us to do if they recognize the standards by which we're going to hold them accountable for, and everybody in the NFL. And I believe Michael understands that. I believe he deserves the opportunity to earn his way back onto the field, but he will have to earn it. It is up to him now. And we will support him the way we have outlined in my decision. But I believe that I had a responsibility to make a decision as quickly as possible, one that was fair. And I hope that this will be seen as fair, although I fully recognize that some people won't agree with it. Okay.
More questions? Anything else? Anybody need a copy of the release? Which,
You have another question, I'm sorry. Did you?
Oh, well, not that. Did you
Go ahead.
Bring it off, I understand, but I just was sort of wondering, I guess, as well, about how many people played a role. I mean, obviously, it's your decision and your name's attached to it, but I know just NFL security, probably owners, coaches, players, past and present, all probably played some role in formulating your final policy.
Well, I believe very much in getting a variety of opinions and to get a broad perspective. So I reached out to a variety of leaders in our country, our society. I've talked to a number of current and former players. I've talked to a number of current and former coaches. I've talked to former and current executives. But I'm very cautious about the competitive issues here. I would not involve someone that would be involved potentially in Michael's interest as a football player. I was interested in Michael as an individual and what we could do to help reestablish his life and get him in a positive way regardless of whether he played football. But I do believe very much in getting other perspectives, and that I think has served me well in making decisions. But as you point out, ultimately at the end of the day I have to go into a room and I have to make a decision. But I reached out to a number of people, including DeMaurice Smith, including former players and coaches, and I believe that I have all the perspectives that I needed to make this decision.
anybody else?
Any of the you talk with any of the sponsors of the NFL, any of the companies about what their reaction would be to something like this? Is this the sort of thing you bounce off them?
I didn't. I can't specifically recall contacting people in that context. From time to time, I may have spoken to a CEO about how to make decisions like this and what are the important factors, even though the circumstances, I presume, would be wildly different. But I never thought about it in the context of a commercial success for the NFL. That's not, it's never been a factor for me from day one. The intent here was to do the right thing with a young man's life and for the game of football in the NFL, and that's what I tried to do here. Okay? Any further? Okay, thank you.